Jesus died at 33 years old. Here we are on day 7 of counseling from the cross, and we're at his final moment of death. It was recorded in the book of Luke, chapter 23, I believe around verse 46, that after he said, "It is finished," with a loud voice he proclaimed, "Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit." And it said, and he gave up the ghost. At 33 years old, Jesus died. He was a young adult. He was very young. There was chaos surrounding his birth, being one of immaculate conception, and his father, Joseph, secretly wanting to divorce his mother because he was not going to be the biological father. There was a time when he was 12 years old, and the priest marveled at his knowledge that he sat there at the temple teaching them. Then came age 30, when he began his ministry by reading the scroll, right? You guys, some of you remember the story, but he opened a scroll where it said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to proclaim the good news," right? The scroll from Isaiah. And when he finished, he said, "This has been fulfilled in your hearing." And his ministry began. Jesus helped so many people. So many people. There were healings, deliverances. People had demons cast out of them. And he touched so many lives that people didn't expect to be touched. He touched the poor. He touched those who were grieving. He uplifted women who were really second place in society, and gave them voice, gave them space, even didn't rebuke them when one of the Marys in the Bible was sitting at his feet amongst the men while Martha was in the kitchen. He gave hope to so many people. And to die so young, to die so violently, it's sad to hear. It's sad to hear when we see young people die who have so much promise, who are doing so well, who are really helping the community, and a bullet, a knife, a plane, a natural disaster, something takes them out of this world so soon. Too soon. And that's what it feels like with Jesus here, that he died too soon. But he also died well. Because when he died, the biblical scholars are saying that he died victoriously. How do you die victoriously when you have been beaten and bruised and rejected, and on the cross? And on the cross at that time was a death penalty. How did he die well? Well, he died well because he had fulfilled his purpose, that which he set out to do, to redeem mankind to God, to be a sacrifice, that he gave his life to help other people. Some of you may remember when he said that I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly. And some were beginning to experience that. That's why he came. He didn't do all this for himself. He did it to please God. And he did it so that you, I, others could have a better life, could have an abundant life. That's what he did. So did he die in vain? Some would have said yes. I would have denied being the Son of God. I want my life. But he said, no. This is my cup. I'll do it. I'll make the sacrifice. That's what I came for. And so today, when we look at spiritual themes and when we look at the mental health theme, the same word comes to mind for me, and that's death. From an existential place, we all have to wrestle with, what does death mean to us? What happens when we die? What will my legacy be? What do I want people to remember or know about my life? From a spiritual standpoint, it's where do we go? after we die? Will we come back again? Do we have another life to live? Will we just go to heaven? Some even worry, depending on your belief, will you go to hell? That's just the reality of things. But Jesus said, into thy hands I commit my spirit, believing and knowing that he was going back to God. So for those of us who are of the Christian faith tradition, who are believers in Jesus Christ, we have to ask ourselves this question: how do we want to die? What do we want our life to look like when that time comes for us to say, Father, into thy hands I commit thy spirit? Well, if we really want to answer that question, then we really have to ask and answer a different question. How do I want to live? Because how you live your life determines how you will die. Yeah, you can't determine whether or not you'll die on a cross, if you'll die from cancer, or if you'll die from a heart attack, or a car crash, or whether or not you'll just go to sleep and not wake up. We can't control that part. But we can control, to a degree, the impact by how we live. We can live in such a way that's worthy of being remembered, that's worthy of being commemorated. We can live in such a way that people look back and say, I want to do that. I want to live like that. I want to follow that example. So, if you want to die well, which means that you really want to live well, then I encourage you to follow the Crossroad. What do you mean? Well, let's look back at it. There are 7 stations on the Crossroad that we have to come to terms with if we're going to live a quality life and live well so that we can die well. So the first stop on the Crossroad is in forgiveness, and I encourage you to become a forgiver. Be someone who stands ready to forgive people of their offenses, that you stand ready to pardon them, that you stand at the place where I'm not going to hold your offense against you even though it hurt me, but I wipe it clean and I love you because that's my purpose in life. John Hopkins, yes, that's who it was. John Hopkins Medicine said that when we practice forgiveness, we reduce our risk of heart attack, we lower our cholesterol, anxiety, and depression all decrease. So practicing forgiveness not only has a spiritual benefit of emulating what Jesus has done, but it also will improve your physical health as well as your mental health. So when we say that forgiveness is for you, it really is, and it can extend your life. So become a man, become a woman who forgives readily. And while you're at it, don't forget to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for all the mistakes that you've made. And be ready to forgive yourself for the mistakes that you're going to make, whether they're small or big. Be someone who can forgive others and can forgive yourself. Secondly, while you're not only becoming a forgiver, you're also becoming someone who is merciful, that you're ready to show mercy to those who make mistakes. You're ready to show mercy for those who acknowledge that they hurt you. You ever been ready to read someone their rights and they come to you and said, oh, I really did do that. I messed up. I was wrong. And all you can say is, because they had deflated you. You were so ready to cuss them out and give them the business, but then they acknowledged their wrong. Be merciful. Be compassionate towards them. Because when you do that, that can help to mend relationships. Remember day 2 when Jesus was on the cross and the thief who was on the cross said, yeah, I did do that. I'm sorry. Yeah. Please remember me when you get to the kingdom. And then Jesus said, oh, don't worry. Today you will be with me in paradise. Jesus didn't say, okay, thief. Yeah, he did not say that. He didn't say, okay, thief, you will be with me in heaven. He said, no. Today you will be with me. And he did not address him by his mistake. But that was the beginning of a relationship that they were going to be together in heaven. When we practice compassion and mercy towards others, you can help to mend relationships. So be forgiving, be a mender by being merciful and compassionate. Your third stop on the crossroad is to be a comforter. Be ready to comfort those who are in loss, who are in grief, lost a job, lost a home, lost a family, lost a marriage, lost someone to death. Be ready to comfort those. This way you can follow the example of Jesus when he said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." Comfort those and make space for them to adjust to a new normal in life. If they need to call you every day the way their husband or wife did, be there for them. If they need to come visit for an hour every Sunday because they're not ready to be alone yet, open your door. Make room for them and comfort them. You don't always have to say anything. Sometimes the gift and what we call the ministry of presence does enough just to help someone make it through, to make it from moment to moment, then day to day, and eventually year to year as they move towards accepting the change that has happened in their life. You have to accept station 4, and that's going to be hard on the crossroad. And that's the one of abandonment, when it feels like you're alone. When it feels like it's getting too hard and you don't have access to your friends and you're crying out and God doesn't seem to be answering you. Your therapist doesn't answer the phone so you can have that emergency session and you feel like you're all by yourself. This is when you have to remember that you are not alone. You have to remember that God is with you, right? That he does not leave you, nor does he forsake you. And I heard a preacher say one time that when you break that down, I will never leave you nor forsake you. What God is really saying is, I will never leave you physically, nor will I abandon you emotionally. Remember that your feelings will not be abandoned, nor will you be abandoned physically. Even though you may be in a place where you are physically alone, remember God is with you. Remember those friends who told you that sometimes I may be a little busy, but it doesn't mean I'm too busy for you. Sometimes I just have other responsibilities that take precedent, but I'm here for you. Call me, and I will call you back. You're not alone, and you have to remind yourself of that. This is when sometimes you may have to get into therapy for additional support to be able to address that trauma that tells you that what you feel is the truth. Remember, it was a great word from Dr. K when she said that emotions are great servants, but they are poor masters. So don't let your emotions drive the car and guide the show. The fifth stop on the crossroad is to be a sufferer. Who wants to do that? But if you're living a life of sacrifice to serve other people, that means that suffering is going to come. It means that it's going to be hard sometimes, and sometimes you may despise life itself. But what do? Acknowledge your suffering. Acknowledge that you're thirsty. I'm thirsty for help. I'm thirsty for employees. I'm thirsty for relationship. I'm thirsty for connection. Especially if you're a leader. Do you know what it means when a leader is able to acknowledge that sometimes I'm not getting it right? Sometimes I'm struggling. Sometimes I'm hurting. What can that do for the team to acknowledge that, wow, he doesn't have it all together either, or she doesn't have it all together. I can work harder. I can help out. What would that even mean for church leaders to acknowledge some of their faults, some of their pains? When they're able to be vulnerable and transparent, it can let other people know that, wow, I'm not going through this alone. That there's someone else who is suffering with me. And we're not talking about, you're suffering and I'm suffering and we're trauma bonding. It's like, no, if you're struggling and I'm struggling, maybe then we can come together and work together to make the suffering a little less hurtful. that maybe I have something that can help you and you have something that can help me, and that can stop me from slipping into that depression and just being weighed down in life and getting to a woe is me and pity party place, because I've acknowledged my thirst. If you don't acknowledge your thirst, it will never be quenched. So when you suffer, say so. Say so that your need can be met. Your basic needs, your physiological needs, your psychological needs, so that you can reach self-actualization and continue to walk in your purpose, which happens to be the 6th station on the crossroad. Remember, you're becoming a forgiver. You're being a person of mercy. You're deciding to be a comforter and recognizing that you're not abandoned on the road. You're recognizing that suffering is par for the course. And you're making a choice to say, I will finish until the end, which is step 6. That I am a completer. That I don't give up when it gets hard. Why? Because I'm moving in purpose. Because I'm moving in passion. And I am moving in persistence. I will not give up until it's over. I love the story that Dr. K said about the man from Tanzania who said, they didn't send me to the Olympics to start a race. They sent me to finish it, which means I'm going to get the job done, even if it means I suffer, even if it means it costs me some things, even if it costs you your life. I will continue to move forward. So what is station 7? That's the end. It's the end of the road where you can look back and say, wow, I did it. Whether I'm 20, 30, 40 years old, because who knows when that time is going to come for you, all of us will get to row 7. And if you have lived a life of forgiveness, of showing mercy, of being a comforter to other people, if you have lived a life recognizing that sometimes I feel abandoned, but I'm not, because God is with me, He'll answer me. I'm not abandoned because my loved ones will come around. I have friends, people who are there to help me and walk with me. Even though there are moments I have to walk alone, I'm not all alone. I'm willing to suffer for the sake of somebody else. I'm willing to take on the hard thing to make it easier for somebody else. And I'm willing to acknowledge when I'm thirsty. When I do that, and I grab a hold of my purpose, and I do it the way no one else can because no one can do it like me, and I do it on purpose, and I do it with precision, and I do it with persistence, and I go until the end, then like Jesus, you'll get to the end of your life and in your moment, and you'll be able to have a sense of peace because you did what you set out to do. You lived the life that you were called to live. You lived a selfish life. Yeah, you had moments that were good for you, but you dedicated your life to help somebody else, whether it's in healthcare, education, entertainment, in the arts, technology, whatever industry you find yourself in. You learn to be selfless. You learn to help someone else reach their purpose. You made life better and easier for somebody else. That's a victory. Even if your death is tragic, it is a victory because they can look back and say, though he died a horrible death, his life poured out helped me so much. It changed me so much. I am not the man or woman that I would be had he not done this. So when it's time for you to say, Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit, you can die in peace and your death will not be in vain. So follow the crossroad. Live well so that you can die well. Thank you all for joining us in this journey of counseling from the cross, looking at Jesus in his last sayings from a mental health and a relational perspective. We truly hope and pray that it has blessed you, that you now have tools to improve your mental health. You have tools to improve your relationship, and that you now see God and Jesus in a different way, in a fresh way that builds and refreshes your spirit. And we want to invite you to come back to YouTube tomorrow on Thursday when we go live to be able to answer any questions that you may have from a mental health perspective, from a spiritual perspective. If you have any questions regarding anything that we've shared and want to talk and engage with us, we would love to hear from you. So please come and join us. And thank you for spending time with us over these last 7 days. Be blessed, have a great day, and remember, as always, keep this in mind.